Good evening and welcome to Voices from the Village, Community Television's long-running public affairs program. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Project. We have with us three representatives of three different congregations that are all participating in this wonderful interfaith collaborative attempting to really head-on tackle and address some of our local homeless problems. And we're going to be learning a little bit more about that tonight. I am, of course, your host, Sandino Gomez, and I'll be guiding this conversation tonight. But before we cut to our kind of interviews that we're going to share with some of the participants of the project, I'd like to introduce, right across the table from me, we have Richard Enriquez, and he's representing the Calvary Episcopal Church vestry member. He is as well. Right? Did I get that right?
Correct. Thank you.
I have horrible pronunciation. You have to excuse me. Welcome, Richard. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. And to his left, we have Scott Galloway, and he's with the Association of Faith Communities, also part of Calvary Episcopal. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And finally, we have Jim Weller, and he's with the Peace United Church of Christ, formerly known as the First Congregational Church of Christ of Santa Cruz, but I think you guys have made a good move here. It's a cool new name.
It is a pretty good new name, isn't it?
Do you mind if I just ask what prompted the change? Without getting too deep into it.
There was a feeling among many of the congregation's leadership that the historic name First Congregational Church of Santa Cruz didn't have great significance to the general public, the secular community.
Yeah.
And that there was a need for something that was more contemporary and would more fully characterize the identity of the congregation.
Yeah, I've always appreciated FCC's, formerly I should say, FCC's kind of positions and their politics that they've made very apparent and out there. And It's great to see you guys make a name change that I certainly can get down with, as they say. And for those of our viewers who don't know, Calvary Episcopal is the Little Red Church, right?
Or Big Red Church.
Or Big Red Church?
Depending on what side you're standing on.
Okay.
Yes, it's often called the Little Red Church.
Little Red Church in downtown.
Primarily,
right?
we have 23 12-step programs there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, every week. And so for many people in Santa Cruz who participate in the 12-step movement,
right,
it became known as the Little Red Church. The church was actually built in 1860.
Oh, wow.
It's been around quite a while. Right across from Nickelodeon Church on Lincoln and Cedar Street, or Lincoln and Center. It goes between both churches.
The whole block there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you should mention that because my father's been in recovery for like 23 years now or something, and he used to go to meetings at the Little Red Church. And so as I was a kid, I definitely remember hearing it referenced as such. So, yeah. Well, great, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think it would be wonderful. We often have a kind of interview person on the street, I should say, woman on the street, interviews. But this week, because of the topic, we decided to go into the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Project and actually talk to some of the participants. So we will, you know what? Hold on. I've kind of assumed here that everyone knows what we were talking about because you read the title, but maybe one of you guys could really briefly describe the project before we watch these videos. I totally neglected that.
The Interfaith Satellite Shelter Project is a collaborative effort involving 6 Santa Cruz churches in which we shelter a group of about 20 people who lack housing every night of the week, 7 nights a week, alternating from church to church. Each church organizes itself to provide supper and breakfast for this group of guests who are housed overnight in the church building. And members of each congregation will arrive at the church shelter site in the evening with supper, serve supper and sit and have supper with the group of guests, build relationships and a network of support that way.
Wow.
And over time, a very uplifting set of interpersonal relationships develops involving these guests and church members at 6 different churches. So it's a very supportive and uplifting kind of a project.
If I could be so bold as to say, and I know like obviously these churches and congregations have their communities already, but it sounds like a real great effort to build that community beyond the congregations, individual congregations, and to really spread that to some of our most vulnerable and impoverished citizens. So,
Right, that's the idea.
yeah, not just social services, but an actual attempt to build community. That sounds really cool. So thank you, Jim. Now that we've actually introduced this thing, why don't we cut to the video of some of our participants in the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Project. This is Voice in the Village. We'll be right back after these interviews.
Could you tell us your name?
My name is Clive Davies.
And Clyde, how did you get started with ISSP?
Well, approximately 3 months ago, the place I was living burnt down, and I barely escaped with my life. So I camped out for a few days, but with the help of a guy named Jim Weller from my congregational church, he arranged for me to stay at the program, and I've been there since.
Great. And do you have any particular jobs or duties with the program?
Yes, I do. I help pile up mattresses on cars, and at the Red Church, my job is to stack up the chairs and to clean the tables and insert them in the closet. And other duties during the week are about the same, just basically moving things out to the trucks and making sure everything's okay. So.
That's good. And what do you like most about the project?
Well, I like the fact that I have a fairly safe and dry place to sleep every night, as opposed to camping out. And I like the people. I've got to like them a lot. And we get fed real well every night. That's the main thing right there.
So how do you think what's the major benefit that you got from it?
The benefit is I get to be with people I enjoy. I know there's a place I can stay every night. And I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you very much for interviewing. All right, could you tell us your name?
Yes, my name is Alfred Anthony.
And Al, how did you get started with ISSP?
One of the old monitors let me know about it, and I got started in ISSP about 2 years ago.
That's great. And they just told you about it, and you just were able to sign up and get started?
Yes.
Do you have any particular duties?
Yes. I hand out all the equipment, the mats and the pillows and the sleeping bags, and I do that every night.
That's great. They can count on you, right?
Yes, they can.
What do you like most about this project?
What I like most about this project is that it gives you a safe place to be at night, where you don't get harassed by the authorities, and it gives you a chance to meet other people.
Good. And how do you think it's benefited you the most?
The way it's benefited me the most is, I think, without it, I'd probably still be sleeping on the street, and with the authorities getting like they are, I don't think that would be very good.
Well, I'm so glad to have you interview, and I'm so happy that you're part of this family, Al.
I am too. I enjoy it 100%.
So, could you tell us your name?
Dan.
Dan, how did you get started with ISSP?
I met Jim Willer. I was involved in a thing called, what was that called? It's a workspace downtown, Cruisionet workspace, and I got I paid for a monthly service and was kicked out the day I paid for it because somebody saw me there, knew I was homeless, and didn't want us there. They kicked us out, and Jim Willer heard about it. We talked to him about it because he was also a Cruzionet customer, and he tried to find out what went on. And nothing came of it, but we talked about what was going on in Santa Cruz and the homeless issues, and he told me about the ISSP program.
Great. Well, I'm really glad that you were able to get linked up with us. Jim Weller is a very good person. Do you have any particular duties in this project?
Yeah, just clean up, keep things clean, be part of the community, help out, do my responsibilities.
Great. Are you a person of faith? Do you like the prayer circles?
I believe in a higher being, but I don't follow any particular religion. And the prayer circles aren't a problem. They're fine. Faith is not an issue.
What do you like most about the project?
It provides a somewhat security and a place to sleep. I'm bipolar, and if I don't get sleep, I tend to spiral out of control. And other than that, I'm fine if I get good sleep. Being on the street, you don't get good sleep.
That is correct. Yeah, I can appreciate that. So how would you say that you've benefited the most from this program?
Well, my son is with me as well, and he gets to have a routine. He's autistic, and I think he benefits greatly, and that helps me, of course. And, of course, my mental health is better because of it.
That's wonderful. How old is your son?
He's 19.
19 years old. And has he been involved as long as you have?
Yes, he came down from Seattle with me. I was raised here, but when I got married, I had to make compromises, which meant move to Seattle. And he was raised up there by me, but she became sick herself, and I ended up being custodial parent and raised him myself. And once he was 18, though, he had a choice to stay up there or come down here, and the college opportunity is better for what he wants to do down here.
Well, I'm so glad. Does he like the project too?
I think he's okay with it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being the interview and for being part of this project.
All right. Thank you.
Please tell us your name.
Juliana.
Hi, Juliana. How did you get started with ISSP?
Through HC. They gave me the number, and I called, and Ian's wife, she spoke to us. She gave us an opportunity to be with the program.
That's great. Do you have any particular duties with the program?
Yes, I do. I'm a monitor, and I also help cook for the churches with Circle Church and Calvary Church.
And I've had some of your cooking, and it's really good.
Thank you.
What do you like most about this project?
Well, we get to meet new people, and I like being around people, helping out, whatever we can in the program.
And you have do you have your family that stays with you here?
Yes.
How many people in your family?
In total, we're 6.
How have you benefited the most from this?
We have at least a place to sleep at night. We don't have to sleep in our truck like we used to sleep on weekends. And also, they have helped us a lot in the program.
And I'm very glad to know you.
Thank you. ¿Tu nombre?
Jaime Becerra.
How did you get started with ISSP? ¿Cómo empezaste con el programa de ISSP?
Pues empezamos que no teníamos dónde dormir y fuimos para que nos dieran oportunidad de quedarnos una noche y fue como empezamos a estar ahí en el programa.
Okay. He said that the program gave us an opportunity to stay And we started one day, and they let us stay after that every day in the program.
Do you have any particular duties?
¿Tú tienes particular obligaciones en el programa?
No, pero sí ayudamos con algunas cosas en llevarlas a donde vamos a dormir, la iglesia que nos va a tocar.
He says that he don't have particular obligations, but we do help move the mats around in our truck to the churches we're going to stay in the night.
What do you like most about this project?
¿Qué es lo que más te gusta de este programa?
¿Qué más me gusta? ¿Qué sé? No sé. ¿Qué me gusta?
Sí, que sí, como por ejemplo, si te gusta a ti estar alrededor de la gente, la ayuda que nos dan.
Sí, todo lo que nos han ayudado. Eso.
Sí. He likes all the help they have given us in the program and the people we're around.
Ask him how he found such a beautiful wife.
Que cómo encontraste una esposa tan bonita.
Pues muy fácil.
Very easy.
Muchas gracias.
There you go, some of the faces and names of our local homeless population. Something that really struck me was the gentleman, I believe his name was Dan, that just said he really just needed sleep and a safe place to sleep, and that if he just has a safe place to sleep, he's fine. And you know, these other a lot of you know, the homeless population finds themselves with a lot of various problems that could help, you know, continue their condition, but certainly it sounds like such a simple one. It's just a safe place to sleep. Any other reactions that you guys had, or anything you want to say about the interview? Where was that conducted at? Do you guys remember which church that was?
It was in the basement at Holy Cross Church.
Okay.
Where the group stays on Thursday evenings.
Okay. Up on Mission Street.
On
there?
High Street.
Yeah,
High Street. Yeah.
Something else that struck me was it was interesting to hear the gentleman, well, I guess both the gentleman and the woman. I noticed in the wonderful cheat sheet I have here, provided by Scott, the ethnicity of some of the participants. I'm just kind of curious about that, and if anyone could speak to like the needs or the changing kind of population. It says here that about 35% of the 3,500 homeless people in Santa Cruz County right now are of Hispanic origin.
I think of the 20 people currently participating, the Becerra family, which is 6, and 3 or 4 others are people who could be described as being of Latino heritage.
Wow.
So that's a fair number.
And is it something you've seen like change over the years, or?
I haven't been working with the so-called homeless population locally for that many years.
Okay.
So I can't say that, no.
But we have had other families in the program who are Latino.
Yeah.
And the single folks tend to be Caucasians mostly, although we had one black woman in the program, I know. But the families we've attracted, I think, have all been Latino, haven't they? Or no, one was not, I think.
No, there was another
Another one
family
too?
that wasn't.
Two that weren't.
Yeah.
Could someone speak to like the history of the project? Like, how did it start, and sort of what prompted it?
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
The former Interfaith Satellite Shelter Program was actually a project of the Homeless Services Center, and funding for transportation ended. In those days, people would gather at the Homeless Services Center and be shuttled out by bus to various congregations. And there was a large number of churches participating, but the churches didn't really. They just had to make the space available. The program came with monitors, came with monitors for the program, and the bedding came with them and so forth. So it wasn't a church-run initiative. It was an initiative run by Homeless Services Center.
Okay.
When that ended, the program died. And there's been an interest for some years in starting the program again.
Oh, wow.
In December 2010, a conference was held. Other people other than churches were there, but it was primarily a faith community conference. We had members of the city council there. We had neighborhood members. We had lots of folks there. About 75 people attended the conference. And we articulated our concerns. Various people spoke, and we articulated our concerns. And the big concern was a need for an organization of churches to coordinate the activities we had, to publish a directory of services so we knew what one another were providing, and hopefully to reintegrate this program again, get it started again. So the Association of Faith Communities formed then in early 2011. And our first task, and Jim was involved in that also, was to create an online directory, which we have. And the next thing we did was to actually start the ISSP program. And initially it started at Calvary Episcopal Church, one night a week. And our first hope was we were going to be taking the very lengthy list of women and children who were waiting for the Rebley Center. There was supposed to be a 6 to 8 month waiting list. However, we really weren't offering women and children very much with one night a week. That is, they already had semi-stable situations they were in that were better than one night a week on a church floor. So we broadened the criteria, and as we did, more churches came in. I think First Congregational was the first church to come in with us on that, and then that gradually grew to Circle Church, Trinity Presbyterian, Holy Cross, United Methodist. Who did I leave out? There's 6 anyway.
Yeah, I think you got them all.
Got them all. And Circle Church does 2 nights a week. The rest of us each do 1. So that's how the program went. As the program grew, it got more complex, and we started realizing we needed to have some part-time managers to actually run the program. We had people doing it, and they were doing it self-sacrificially, but it became an occupation. Right. And it became unreasonable to expect them to do this 7 nights a week without some compensation. So we set up a compensation system, and Jim came in as our administrator. Now the program is pretty much run by the sponsors group, which is a subgroup of the AFC, really. It's a group of 6 churches, the 6 churches that actually run the program. And Jim works directly with that program, but Jim's a volunteer. Jim does all this for free, just for I'll tell you why he does it. I don't know. I'd say for the joy of doing it and his commitment to God. But Jim can tell you why he does it. You know.
Yeah. I'm sure there's quite a reason behind all of your actions. Certainly not to single Jim out. Richard, how did you get involved in the project, and kind of what role do you play within the thing?
First of all, that's the first time that I've seen the video, and I thought that was just amazing. It touched me. I actually was elected to the vestry, which is the organizing board of Calvary Episcopal Church, in 2010. So it wasn't long after that the idea came up, and I felt fortunate to be in a position at that time to be on the board in order to voice my opinion in wanting Calvary Church to be part of it. Like Scott mentioned, we were the first. We did a pilot program to see if it would work. I think it was with just 10 people in the beginning, and I was all for it. I have a personal reason for it. I spent 2 years homeless. Wow. So when the idea came up that we could actually do a small part in getting people, even if it's just for one night, off the street, I was all for it. I thought, terrific, let's go for this. The people who have actually championed this and made it a 7-night-a-week program, I'm just amazed by. Given the opportunity, they ran with it, organized it, and now 20 people are able to be sheltered every night. And just as the video was showing, it's amazing. I think if you haven't had the experience of being homeless, you don't know exactly what that means to the individuals who have the opportunity to get off the street. It's easy to sit by and say, oh, that's a project that lets people sleep at a church. But for the people who actually have that opportunity, it's life-changing.
Yeah. And it can help them change their own lives, certainly.
Absolutely.
Like, you really need a stable base of operations to make big moves. And I mean, I've certainly had a lot of friends growing up in this town. I've had a lot of friends, and just not so much family, but mostly friends and people I would consider family that have gone through a lot of tough times, and I just know how stressful it can be, and just the kind of cumulative effects of trying to survive in a town that is quite often not that friendly towards the homeless population in general. Something else that struck me, and I'm just curious how this is played out inside the project. I was looking at the executive summary from the Santa Cruz County Homelessness Census and Survey, and it says that 72% of our homeless population are people from the area. And I think there's this mythos that, there's the service mooches that come from all across the world to get our great services. And, why wouldn't they come to Santa Cruz if they can crash on these church floors? I mean, could you guys speak to some of the local, like who is in this program really? I mean,
well, I can talk about that. We
seems like people you meet.
Yeah,
at least a couple folks. That's great that you're recruiting like that.
I have lots of contacts in different ways with so-called homeless people in Santa Cruz, and the result of that has been inviting a couple of likely candidates to join the project. But we have very clear criteria for selecting the people who participate in our project, and we do select them. They participate by invitation, each of them. Because we are a church project and our churches are embedded in neighborhoods, we're very concerned that we should have a project that is safe and non-disruptive and not threatening to anyone in the neighborhood. So we're careful to select people. Well, first we try to select people who are the most vulnerable on the street. So that turns out to be people who are older for the most part. Most of our participants are over 50. Also people who have some sort of disability or another, we look for that. And in addition to that, we want people who we feel are capable of cooperating together in an intentional community. Because this group is very much self-regulating, and we rely on them to take care of themselves for the most part. So that's kind of how the selection process goes. Many people come to us and ask to participate, and we have to select from that large number the group of people who we think will do well. As far as so-called transients, you hear the word transients all the time. I really dislike that term.
It very much creates an other.
Because transients could include all the tourists, too. I mean, think about the transient occupancy tax. That's a big source of public revenue. But those transients aren't the transients that people are thinking of when they demonize transients. It's true, there are people who drift in and out of Santa Cruz. It's been that way for decades. Santa Cruz is an attractive place for people to come for a while and visit.
Certainly.
And it's the same for impoverished people who have no visible means of support as it is for a well-to-do tourist. They want to come here for the same reasons.
But as you said, 72% of those who are homeless were here before they were homeless. And if you also notice, the population is very young on the average. The younger homeless population is certainly very present. But what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of the folks who are homeless were foster children here before. At 18, the foster help ends. And in most cases, those children who arrive at the age of 18 are out on the street and with no visible means of support. So there's a big drain there that's happening onto the street from people that were housed through the foster youth program. The other statistic that's very interesting is almost 1,000, 980 some I think, of the folks that are homelessness community are chronically homeless. That means they've been homeless for more than a year or have been homeless 4 times in a given period of time. These are federal definitions. And that's a big population, and those folks tend to be the most vulnerable and the most costly folks. In other words, they're the folks that have chronic conditions that land them in the hospital. They're the folks that get incarcerated periodically for substance abuse issues. And so these are a target area really for a lot of programs. The 180 program, which is a program in Santa Cruz, is working on the most vulnerable folks And I think to some degree our program, although we don't say it overtly, we wind up with a lot of folks who have disabilities who would really be in great jeopardy on the street. They're not the people you say, hey, get a job. These are folks who aren't going to be able to get a job or hold a job because of physical disabilities. We had one woman in the program, as an example, who had both diabetes and congestive heart failure.
Wow.
And had a working career, but found herself in a position where she was disabled. She now has housing, permanent housing. So you have to look at this program as transitional. But we're talking 20 people out of 3,500 people, only 18% of which are actually housed in shelters or transitional housing. There's a huge population out there. So one of our hopes at the AFC is to get 7 more churches or 6 more churches to take 7 more nights and expand this program beyond just the churches in downtown Santa Cruz and the environment to Live Oak, Capitola, Aptos, and so forth. So.
I'm just thinking there's been a lot of talk in Watsonville around like the levee population,
yes,
and just sort of the problems that having people living along the river can generate,
right?
Both for the people in those conditions and also for the town itself, and sort of a lose-lose as it's structured now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the problem is a lot larger than what we're able to address. I mean, I'm glad that we're able to do something in order to have even a small impact on it, but it's definitely a larger problem. Countywide. I would want to make sure that we don't. I mean, I know it's easy and it's probably human nature to take and dissect populations. So, and I know that it's one of the sticking points that I always hear about who comes in for services and who is native to Santa Cruz County. Right. I'd have to say I spent 1 year homeless outside in the Central Valley where the services were minimal. Accessing the services were very difficult. The location where the services were dangerous to even be in that particular location. Wow. So trying to get yourself from a position of homelessness into a position of being a productive citizen was near impossible. The reason that I came here is I had spent time coming here on vacation.
Wow.
I mean, I came and stayed in hotels, and I had family here before, not now. And went and enjoyed this beautiful city. And I knew that the weather and the atmosphere was a lot better than where I was in the Central Valley. If you think that the persecution from police here it can be difficult in trying to keep people off the street, persecution in Central Valley from where I was from was even more difficult. And the population itself in the treatment of homeless persons. So I thank this community for when I came here in the services, Homeless Service Center, Calvary Church, and the ability and the opportunity to be able to get myself from being homeless up and in housing now. So I know it's easy to say we don't want to help them, but I come from a unique perspective in that I was them and came here. And now I'm not just them, but thanks to the generosity of this town, I'm now active, working. I'm actually in school right now, and I can contribute and give back, and that's why I'm really, really a strong believer and a strong advocate for doing as much as we can through Calvary Church for homeless population, because I know that there's people out there, given the opportunity, can really change their lives.
That's touching, and I hopefully certainly did imply that we shouldn't be serving people outside of our community. If that at all came off by any means, that was not intentional.
But it didn't. I just had to be an advocate for that.
And it's something that I guess I brought up because it's something that you hear, and that's just again even for me a very ridiculous argument. Like people from some other zip code don't deserve compassion or don't deserve access to resources. Yes. That's a kind of obscene argument. So.
All people at a bare minimum deserve food to eat and a safe, secure place to sleep at night. Everyone. And in this country, it's a shame that people do go to bed hungry or go to bed afraid because they have to sleep outdoors. It's not right. It's not fair. And I'm glad that we can do a small part in order to make that better.
Here.
Your words reminded me of like Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous quote of, I have the audacity to believe that people can have, food for their bellies, education for their minds, and decent housing, and meaning in their lives. Something like, some paraphrasing here, but you just made me think of that. I'm sorry, Scott, you were going to say?
No, it's a little bit off the point, but I think another thing needs to be emphasized about the ISSP program, and that is that a significant number of the people that stay in our shelter actually have jobs.
That's true.
Yeah,
And
working poor.
In this community, we have the working poor who are homeless.
Yeah.
And so we've got a few folks who actually have jobs.
Yeah.
And but living on the street and trying to get clean, clean in this case, get clean clothes, shower, get your outfit on, get to work on time, is almost impossible.
Yeah.
So what our shelter does offer is of a more stable temporary housing situation while folks progress far enough in their job to be able to get a first month, last month deposit on an apartment and then move on.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm certainly proud to be from Santa Cruz and such a compassionate kind of community overall. That we have our problems certainly, but it's really heartening to hear your story, Richard, and to think. I have family out in Kerman and Fresno and Clovis area, so I kind of just followed a little bit of the politics around like the Fresno PD and the Fresno city government just destroying people's belongings, and the court case that really, I can't remember the specific details, but I know there's a huge settlement or maybe negotiation around that. Yeah. Well, we have another. Actually, why don't we throw up the phone number first? This is a live call-in show. That is to say, if you are watching on November 10th, if I'm not mistaken, 2013. And look, there's the phone number, 425-8844. So if you have a question for Richard, Scott, or Jim, get your phone ready, because I think now it would be a wonderful time to go to this other video. This is Bessie Phillips talking to Ian Mackay a little bit about the history of the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Project and his role in participating in it. So why don't we cut to that other video segment? I'm Sandino Gomez, here with Richard, Scott, and Jim. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, here we are at Holy Cross High School with the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Program, and I'm interviewing Ian Mackay, the heart and soul of this project, about how it has helped so many people find shelter over the last few years. So Ian, first I want to say thank you for being part of this project.
Thank you very, very much for having me, and hopefully I can bring enough information to the public, better understanding of what we do and who we are.
All right. Could you explain briefly how ISSP works?
The ISSP is basically made up of a number of churches within the county. Each church has a representative on a board that directs the program, and then there's one representative from the established churches that I basically appear before to give information in regards to how the ISSP is functioning on a day-to-day basis. My job is basically to run the ISSP on the ground on a day-to-day basis, and if there are changes or needs from my perspective, I talk with the person in question, who happens to be Jim Weller of the First Congregational Church on High Street. He's in effect my boss, and what I do is talk with him in regards to issues that I have to deal with, and he lets me know if there are problems from above that need to be settled or issues that need to be talked about to make the program work more effectively on a day-to-day basis.
All right. So basically, people just apply to be part of this, and then they have shelter at a different place each night of the week?
Well, the way it works is that right now there are 6 churches and 7 nights. One church, Circle Church, does 2 nights, Saturday and Tuesday, and each of the other 5 churches does 1 night a week. Holy Cross is for Thursday night. Friday night is the United Methodist Church. Saturday night is the Circle Church. Sunday is First Congregational. Monday is the Episcopal Calvary Church. Tuesday is Circle Church. And Wednesday is Trinity Presbyterian Church.
That's great. Is this program very expensive to run? Is there a lot of things we need to buy for it?
Well, right now, the things that we zero on is food, and to make sure that each church is able to provide a meal. We have breakfast and dinner, and also to have the equipment that we need to provide for sleeping over in each of the respective churches. So that expense, which is incurred by each of the individual churches, plus we have transportation of equipment and things that are related to that.
Does each church provide their own mats, or do you use the same mats for every church?
Well, theoretically, we'd like to have each church buy a set of its own mats and equipment. But right now, there are 3 churches that actually have their own mats, and the other churches are in the process of buying mats. So we have to transfer mats and equipment from church to church on a regular basis.
How did you personally get involved with ISSP?
Well, the idea of the ISSP was resurrected in the very end of 2011 when my pastor, Father Joel at Calvary Episcopal Church, and a number of other individuals within the church began to discuss the issue of homelessness. And Father Joel came up with the idea of resurrecting an older program called the ISSP. And it started with our church officially in January of 2012. And as time went on, other churches joined, so we went from 1 church and 1 night to 6 churches, 7 nights a week.
So Ian, what has been your level of commitment to this project?
Well, I've always felt that one should always help those in need if you have the ability to do so. And as a member of our church, as well as the other churches that are involved, have had a social commitment and social justice issues concerning homeless and other lesser-known issues. My commitment is personally to help those in need, and I've been putting in a tremendous amount of hours to help make this program work with the help of other individuals, obviously. I think it's really important to realize that this is a commitment of many churches with people working behind the scenes that have really made this program work. It's not the work of any one individual. It's the work of a multitude of people who've had the same basic values of bringing a sense of humanity to our community in regards to the sufferings of others.
Did you ever feel like you wanted to give up?
Well, you know, when you deal with the day-to-day situations of people and individuals and problems, sometimes it can be frustrating. But I never really wanted to give up per se. Sometimes I can get a little irritated, but that happens with everything. But the most important thing is to always realize that nothing is perfect and you have to work with what you have to work with. And if you have that as a goal in the long run of maintaining a program, it works. It's just a matter of your commitment. And I have very strong commitment to this.
How did you build morale and self-esteem within this group?
Well, this group is run a little bit differently than the other shelters. Most shelters have a top-to-bottom management program. So the people come into the program, they're just given their equipment and food, and they're told to go to bed and that kind of thing. What I wanted to do from the very, very beginning, with the help and support of the different churches in administering this program, is to empower the people in the program to run it themselves. In other words, I have 2 or more monitors that run the program at night that are picked from the people in the program. I have one person who works in the kitchen and does all of the kitchen work. I have one person who administers all the equipment. I have one person who specializes in packing the equipment. So, and this is rotated. It's not just one person does the same thing. We rotate it so that everybody who wants to, and most people do, can get directly involved. If I ask people to stay after to pack equipment, everybody stays after and packs equipment. The only exception to that is if someone has a paid job or if they have to go to the hospital or something along those lines. What I want is to have people be empowered by becoming proactive and working together as a team. That gives self-esteem, gives a sense of accomplishment. And if people feel comfortable in living in quarters that are close together, as we are in most situations, there's more of a tendency that they'll have greater self-esteem for themselves to go out into the real world and perhaps find employment or housing on their own or such.
I just noticed that everybody got together for a prayer circle and said a prayer together. Does that happen every night at every shelter?
Yes, at every shelter prior to a meal, we form a circle and we have one minister, or if a minister is not there, I execute the prayer for the group, and everybody participates.
How do you think this project could be expanded?
Well, right now we have 7 churches for 7 nights. We plan in the future to replicate this program in other parts of the county, so that in the middle and the southern parts of the county we can have the same program of 7 churches for 7 nights. Because right now our program only covers 7 nights with 20 people each night. There are about 3,500 people in the county that are homeless. We show a program for 20 people. That's a very small number, but it's a beginning. And if we can replicate this program successfully in other parts of the county, it can be a model that other people can use, perhaps in other parts of California or the country.
If you were going to speak to a pastor or a parish congregation right now about taking on this project, how would you speak to them? Just pretend you're talking to them right now. What would you say?
Well, part of this has a religious overtone to it. Christianity is something that has a lot of values attached to reaching out to the poor. When Jesus did the Sermon on the Mount and other such examples that can be seen in the New Testament, Jesus' whole mission was to the poor. Jesus was with people who were less fortunate than those in his time. Our church and other churches that are part of this program carry out that same mission, the idea that a church is there to serve the community. And this church, Holy Cross, and the other churches have exemplified that by doing this program and other programs that are like it.
Have you grown spiritually by doing this program, do you believe?
I think that this program has been very enlightening in working with less fortunate people. My knowledge of homeless people prior to that was somewhat limited. Having day-to-day interaction and doing a lot of background reading has really helped.
Are you available to speak personally with anyone interested in starting a project like this?
I can speak with anybody who would like to start a program like this for their church, and or I have people that I serve with that can do the same thing.
Can you give any contact numbers or contact information, how people could get in touch with you about this?
Well, my number is 831-325-6511, and I use that number from my cell so that I can reach out to some of the other ministers and other administrators within the program.
And just what do you think would be the biggest benefit of this program to you and to the church?
Well, I think the real benefit is the people we serve, because I think part of the church and part of the ideology that we have as Christians is to reach out for those who are less fortunate than ourselves. This is part of what Jesus preached. This is part of what we live. We walk the walk, we talk the talk. If you have a church that preaches something but doesn't follow through with its values beyond its doors, that causes a lot of issues morally and ethically, not only within a congregation, but people looking from the outside in.
We just sang happy birthday to Jeff. So happy birthday, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Ian, very much, and I hope that people will be inspired to move in this direction. I think it's a great direction, and I thank you personally for everything that you've done to help this project be successful.
Well, thank you very, very much, and hopefully when people see this video, they'll be inspired to become more proactive, not only through their churches, but through other avenues to help reduce some of the social ills at hand, including homelessness as well as other issues. Thank you.
Super cool. That was Ian Mackay there talking about his role and some of the kind of facts on the ground of the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Project. You guys know Ian? I'm assuming,
course we know
obviously.
Ian.
He's you're his boss.
Yes.
Ian
Even though
serves
we don't
on
like those word.
Ian serves on the vestry of Calvary Episcopal Church along with Richard. So
Okay.
he's actually a member of the board at
Okay.
Calvary.
Cool.
And Ian actually works for Calvary Episcopal Church. His day job is as sexton
Sexton
there,
for the
which is a
church.
custodian.
Okay.
Ian's a great guy. He has a big heart and he works really hard.
Cool.
So I like him a lot.
Seemed like it. Yeah.
I thought that was a great thing if the juxtaposition between, if you can imagine, without that program, the people that are participating in it would typically be spending the night trying to find someplace dry or warm to huddle. They'd be worrying the entire night whether or not the police was going to come by and tell them to move along, as if you had a place to move along to. Or any of citizenry who aren't necessarily that approving of being homeless, as if it was their decision to be that way. And here we just saw an amazing community of people who have the opportunity to get together and celebrate a birthday and eat food and come together in community and be normal.
Just be normal together. Yeah.
Something we take for granted. And I thought that was moving. I loved it.
I believe it. Yeah, I mean, I've just always had a problem with the Santa Cruz sleeping ban, the kind of city ordinance that says people can't cover up with a blanket or just seek a safe place to shelter themselves. It just seems so absurd because there is nowhere else to go. Like, there's clearly not enough beds for this huge population, and what do we expect? It's like it makes compliance impossible. I mean, sleep is a human right. Like, they biologically need it or they go crazy, and it's just. We're not making it any easier for them as a town or as a society, and I think that's really frustrating.
Well, I don't want to sound too political, but what other class of people would it be okay to treat that way?
Yeah.
And the answer would be none.
Yeah.
None. This country's come out of discrimination against most groups. We've had the civil rights legislation, we've had the Americans with Disabilities Act, but still, we treat the homeless population as if somehow they're second-class citizens.
Yeah.
And the letters to the editor day after day after day that tend to imply that these folks are all from out of town, that they all just need to grow up, as one article or one letter said, I think this morning or yesterday, they need to grow up, or that they need to get a job.
Which many of them actually already have.
Some of them
still
have
can't afford
jobs,
the rent here.
Some of them already have jobs.
Rich was
That's
saying
exactly
during the video.
problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's insane. And I think it just speaks to the poverty in this country. You know, we declared war on poverty, and yet all we got left with is a war on the poor instead of the concept of poverty. It seems like most of our policies just tend to attack and blame poor people for being poor
the overarching problem really is one of poverty.
Yeah.
Homelessness, so-called, is an effect of impoverishment, which is widespread in this country, everywhere in this country, and it's growing rapidly.
Right.
So I think it's really important to realize that we're dealing with a poverty problem.
Yeah.
And that impoverishment has many different
manifestations,
psychosocial effects, including people lacking housing.
Right.
And there's some complexity to that. As we saw in the video, there are people that are suffering from mental illness and substance abuse that rather than leaving on the street, which doesn't solve anything, you saw the gentleman who has bipolar, or his son who has autism. I mean, in both of those cases, having structure in your life is advantageous to getting healthy and to living a good life. And being on the street is absolutely the worst thing that could happen for that particular population. Yeah. And to say to those people, you have a mental illness, which may or may not make it difficult for you to have employment anyway, especially in an atmosphere of high employment where employers can pick and choose people who they want, and the last that are going to get chosen are people with mental illness, then there are no alternative choices for them.
Yeah. We only got about 2 minutes left, and I want to get to a very important question, which is, how can people help this project? Where should they direct their donations, or where can they get in contact with the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Project?
Well, we're always in need of monetary donations. We do have operating expenses. They run about $25,000 a year for the project as it's presently constituted. Most of that is wages for our shelter managers. You met one of them, Ian Mackay. There's another one, Thomas Miller. So we're in need of donations. Those can be directed now to Calvary Episcopal Church, which is acting as the fiscal agent for the group of churches.
Okay.
And we're also in need of donations of service. People who are interested in preparing supper and serving it at any one of the church locations are also very much welcomed. We're in need of that too.
And I understand there's a benefit coming up. If we could get those titles up on the screen, please. Can you tell us about that, Richard?
Yes, on November 21st, we're having a fundraiser. It's at Santa Cruz Mountain Brewery Tap Room. So go, have a beer. We get $1 for every beer purchased. We'll go to the ISSP to support that. So
Great.
November 21st, all day. Go have a beer.
It's part of
for the cause.
It's part of the regular Thank You Thursday program at Santa Cruz Mountain Brewery. If you don't know where that is, that's out by Kelly's Bakery, just out on Ingalls Street.
Ingalls, Cross Street, Swift.
They do a lot of great work. A lot of great nonprofits get every Thursday. Every Thursday you can drink
there's
for the cause.
a deal for a nonprofit out there, yes. And
That's
so
awesome.
our Thursday is the 21st of November. Never like to encourage people to drink too much beer.
Not
but
excessive.
Just have one beer, you know?
November 21st is my birthday, and I don't drink anymore, so go have a drink for me.
Sounds great, guys. Well, Richard, Scott, Jim, thank you all so much for coming on the show and
Can we
talking
give you a
about
phone number, too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Calvary Episcopal Church's phone number is 423-8787. And if people want to talk to somebody about the program, they can call there and speak to either Nicole or Father Joel Miller in the office, and then one of us will get back to them if you want to leave a message there. Ian gave his number, of course, but if you want to get more information on where to send donations or how to get involved in helping the program, or if you're a pastor or a church member who wants your church to consider this, we'd be happy to come out. We have a whole speakers bureau that will come out and talk to them.
Great. Thank you. Have a great night, Santa Cruz. Hope you all stay safe, sheltered, and healthy in this crazy world we live in. Have a good night.